Hello, everyone. My name is Lasha Tsatava. I'm one of the co-founders of Saperica, nonprofit organization, and our mission is to promote Saperavi and other Georgian grape varieties, along with Georgian gastronomy and culture in Finger Lakes, New York, and around US, by organizing and facilitating educational seminars and exchange programs between the region for wine and culinary professionals and enthusiasts. We're coming live from Finger Lakes region in Australia to you. And I wanted you to see the view of beautiful Finger Lakes and Dr. Konstantin Frank Winery. And my partner and co-founder, Erika Frey, will introduce the purpose of today's recording.
Good morning from the Finger Lakes. So today we are actually doing a Saperavi Festival here at Dr. Konstantin Frank Winery, where we're bringing together producers of the Saperavi grape variety from here in the Finger Lakes, from other spots in the United States, and then a lot of producers from Georgia as well. And to help kick off this festival, we are having a keynote speaker who is going to talk to us about the importance of Saperavi grape variety. This is a person who has experience working with this grape variety in many parts of the world. And I'll give it back to Lasha to introduce our speaker for today.
Thank you, Erika. So today's presentation is importance of Saperavi, and our keynote speaker is Lado Uzunashvili. He holds a PhD in Oenology, and he's a winemaker. And his unique skill set includes working and understanding vinification methods to produce award-winning wines from international grape varieties like Chardonnay, Viognier, Sauvignon Blanc, Verdeo, Semillon, Chenin Blanc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Pinot Noir, Syrah, Grenache, as well as, of course, native Georgian grape varieties, just to name a few: Saperavi, Rkatsiteli, and Tsoane. Lado's roots come from the family of vintners and vignerons of 11 generations and over the span of more than 250 years. He has been practicing winemaking from very young age and experiencing different practices, climate conditions, grape varieties, styles, and wines and philosophies around the world, particularly Georgia, France, Ukraine, Morocco, and Australia, working with Hugh Hamilton, producing Saperavi as well as other grape varieties. It's our pleasure to introduce Lado Uzunashvili. Lado, please.
Thank you, Lasha. Thank you, Erika. Actually, we are now representing the world, not only Georgia and America. I'm in Australia, where we tried Saperavi a lot, and we are happy here with this variety. Just to go into the presentation, I would like to thank you both for this great opportunity. As I mentioned before, I've been trying to do something in the United States about Saperavi and related projects since 2009, and you are the two great enthusiasts to put this together. Thank you for this opportunity and occasion to present Saperavi in Georgia to Americans after such a long time of me trying to do this. Great job, well done, both, well done. And also, I deem this occasion as an opportunity to put a bridge between one of the newest worlds on the planet and one of the oldest winemaking worlds, as Georgia is, with its almost wild grape varieties of its origin, such as Saperavi. This instance, what we are introducing. This is going to be a chance to exchange on educational sides, on cultural, on historic, and scientific, as well as techniques. To go into the presentation, I will start from introducing my country to the public attending this seminar. Well, we are the country of Georgia. Often people confuse Georgia, Eastern Europe, with Georgia, the state of United States. This is the country of Georgia, Republic of Georgia, between Black Sea and Caspian Sea. This is our flag. Historically, this is our alphabet. This is the way we write our country name. And this alphabet is one of the 14 original alphabets existing in the world. So the culture is very old. I will go now shortly and show you the list what Georgia gave to the world. Just to use our time more properly, because we are short of time today, I will leave it to you. You can read all these achievements, historic achievements of the country. Of course, on the last position, I put wine, and the wine will be the topic of our conversation today. It is thought that Homo sapiens, or I mean, humanoids migrating from Africa, they stopped in Transcaucasia, and they put the beginning of European race. And we are here listing institutions and information sources where it was published. The country is very old, and we can observe evolution of humankind there for a long time, with most important period after the permafrost, when deglaciation starts. When deglaciation starts, this area appears to be forming in two different phases of climate changing. One, right, 8,000 years before present, and the other one, when climate is stabilizing, it's 6,700 years. And these periods are noted as one of the greatest era in humanity, in human history, when humans are studying how to produce their food and put the foundation to sustainable food production. On this map, there is an interesting two patches, what we call fertile crescent. Before the Iron Curtain was destroyed and Georgia obtained its liberty, its freedom from Soviet Union, nobody knew about this country, and of course nobody knew about the importance of this country. And archaeological excavations showed that the first agriculture was initiated somewhere in Phoenicia and Mesopotamia. But today's archaeological excavations and studies are strongly suggesting that the top of this crescent has gone up into the southern Caucasus, where Georgia proper is at the moment. This country, I have to say, with much bigger cultural covering of this area, has been reducing a lot historically. We've seen rise and fall of 16 to 17 empires, and I hope we will see one more very soon to be political, because we know what's happening in our neighboring country in Ukraine. I really would like to express my condolences for the loss of this country. So these areas are very important to the human race, and Georgia proper is one of the most important regions, topping many others around. Georgia is situated between Greater Caucasus Mountains from the north, which shields us from Russian cold, but unfortunately not from the Russian politics. And from the south, Georgia is shielded with the Caucasus Minor. And at the same time, we have this dividing range in the middle, which divides the country into two climatic pockets, which is Western Georgia and Eastern Georgia. Western Georgia being cooler and more humid, and Eastern Georgia warmer and drier. And when we say this, we mean only the summertime, the growing vegetation time of vines, because in the winter it's vice versa. Western Georgia is much milder, while Eastern Georgia is more continentally expressed climate conditions, which is sub-zero temperatures down to -15 in some cases, and more or lower. The fact that this country is so rigid in its landscape gives us perfect opportunity for variety of mesoclimates. And this is the key to historic phenomena, that these enclaves in gorges and ravines and in mountains and valleys and etc. gave a good breeding area to a huge versatility of fauna and what is the other one? Please remind me.
Flora is the other one.
Fauna
and flora.
Fauna and flora. Sorry, yes, it slipped my mind. Yes, so we are one of the richest countries in the climate and ecosystems, and we are considered number 2. Rated number 2 with richness after the equatorial belt. It is so rich in Southern Caucasus. I think we once again have to mention what are the major climatic influences of this country, although in this case we are showing a political map. From the north we have Russia, but we are protected again from the Russian cold. From the Black Sea there is a huge amount of evaporation during warm season, and it collides with mountains, these vapors, and we observe quite a lot of precipitation. While in the east, as we said, it's dry, but we have the influence of sudden desert hot winds sometimes, which is affecting our climate more and more lately. And about this we will talk in later on here or in our presentations. Please follow us on YouTube channel, Saperica YouTube channel, where we spread widely these topics, these data, and we present whatever we know about this region to really offer the public how rich this area is and how to properly use the history, the genomic pool, and etc. of this country, which needs lots of more friends around the world, especially today. These are excavations, archaeological excavations, which are done just 35 kilometers away from the capital city of Georgia, and these are the places where we found the oldest remains of fermented grape juice, tartaric acid. I have to quickly note that we are not talking about fermentation, first fermentation in the history of humankind. We are talking about the first wine made purely from grapes and vinified in a cultural way in clay pots here in Georgia. And this is what we see, and this is how UNESCO registered this culture, uninterrupted, unbroken culture of quarry winemaking as tangible cultural heritage of humankind. I think I have to mention also the word vino, which is the foundation to modern vino, Latin vino, which is hard sounding, was lost the history, and then Latins who had vinifera throughout the Mediterranean basin, they just used the other part of the word vino. Saperavi profile and characteristics. I think we are getting here to the most important part of this presentation. These are Saperavi vineyards, and these are Saperavi vines and grapes, obviously. And I would like you to pay attention to the structure of the vineyards. Historically, we build, this is the word in Georgian, establishing vineyards. We are building vineyards, like we build our house, home. So while we build our vineyards, we cane pruning, which is, in other words, we can roughly compare it like double guyot, two long canes from both sides. Density can be anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 vines per hectare. Saperavi as a variety originates from Black Sea hearth of origin, which is modern Turkey, that was like formerly Georgian cultural area. And then it migrated from there to the south of Georgia. And in the 12th century, it finally ended up in its today's biggest region of Eastern Europe, Kakheti. Kakheti is modern home to Saperavi, where I would say 90-95% of Saperavi is produced today in Georgia. Once we have a look at Saperavi's leaves from the underneath, we can see this fluff developing on the bottom of Saperavi's leaves. And this is indication, together with the flower structure, particularly structure of the flower of Saperavi, these two traits of this variety are the strongest suggestions that this variety is still standing at the transitional period between wild and cultural species, and it's been bringing these traits throughout this history up to date, to modern times, and it shows it. And we can see more evidence where we show more leaf fluff from underneath. And one thing we can say, not only Saperavi reacts with its fluff intensity to local climate conditions wherever it's grown, but also it has this different intensity of fluff on each individual and pattern, most importantly, individual leaf, which once again tells us how wild and how unpredictable in many ways Saperavi is, apart from one property, which is making great wines. Saperavi traits, general traits. It is a variety which still has genomic pool formed minimum 3,500 years ago, and appears at a transitional period, as we mentioned already, between wild and cultured varieties. It shows most wild properties depending on the growing area. In some cases, you can think that it has everything absolutely like modern varieties, but there will be years when it will show you some really strange characters. I would say these character properties are quite positive in many cases, and we are going to say about it later on. As we said, it originates from Black Sea marine climate, southwest of Georgia, and is performing in strongly expressed continental climate conditions of the east of the country. Once again, telling us that it can perform and adapt itself in different terroirs. Saperavi is also the master of survival. I can bring you McLaren Vale case in Australia, when after long heat waves, we lost the crop. The grapes were desiccated as the plant itself just took all the moisture out into the main body for its survival. So we deem this variety, and it also happens in its original country, in Georgia, especially in Kakheti, which is a warm climate during summer, and hence we call it a master or the master of survival between Wisteria varieties. Special traits: exceptional adaptability to various climate and soil conditions, and exceptional blender. Hence, we deem this variety as the variety of the future. Saperavi is a variety which immediately raises a question in your mind: can it make a great wine? And we say definitely yes, because this variety has all four properties for a grape variety to deliver great wine. It accumulates enough sugar to deliver wines up to 16 point and more percent alcohol per volume. Acidity by titration is enormous, and it reacts to soil conditions, of course, other climatic conditions as well, and is always very strong. Buffer is very strong, and it protects the ferments perfectly throughout fermentation. And it's right. Extremely well expressed color and tannin structure, ready to work with the winemaker, and almost perfect varietal aroma expression, which is quite rare in many varieties. And this expression heavily reacts to the place of its cultivation. Once again, this is very important to think about and to see it. This is one of the traits which helps Saperavi deliver an huge array of different wine styles through its aromatic expression.
Lado, what would you
yes.
characterize as the varietal aroma expression? Is there anything that stands out for Saperavi that you think is
yes,
ideal?
Let us take a general picture from different climate conditions. It can have clearly expressed cherry aromas, which is almost everywhere, and we talked about it together while in Georgia or United States. We tasted also plenty of Saperavi together at the exhibition. This is one of the principal aromas you can find. Blackberry is there, and what I find the most interesting in Saperavi, this is elder fruit. You may know this black small berries, and that is profile or aroma which drives me really fond of this variety. It's very rare. It is like felt throughout all the layers and transfers on the taste as well. Saperavi also can deliver some in cool areas, hint of cranberry or maybe some black currant. Sometimes it has like case of French varieties, it can deliver black currant, and especially I think we need to also mention about its ability to develop this mature, multi-layered aromatic profile when it's at its peak of aging, and it ages beautifully, and we are going to talk about it later on in this presentation. I hope I answered your question, and I can move further.
Yes, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure always. And I think we have to bring some of history of Saperavi to the public. Saperavi, born in Georgia, attracted an interest of French ampelographers operating in Georgia in the 19th century. And they took Saperavi from Georgia to Nikita Gardens, modern Crimea, Ukraine. Once again, I say Ukraine, Crimea. There is no Ukraine, Crimea, Russia. Crimea is Ukraine. And it's gone to Ukraine. And we are going to say, this is where Dr. Constantine Frank comes from originally or so. And after resting in Crimea, the French Ampellographers took actually 37 other varieties along with Saperavi to France. And one of them was Catsitelli, which is in the United States as well. And it grows, I believe, in Finger Lakes, Long Island, in Ohio, in many other places of the United States. And that is the time when Phylloxera is coming into France. So the name of Ampelographer is Puila. And when they planted these international varieties in France and Phylloxera attacked their vineyards, they got really anxious, softly saying, and they started just eradicating and killing all the imported varieties, thus thinking to achieve cleanliness in their soils. But of course, obviously, the reason was completely different. It was coming from a different direction, and many international varieties were sacrificed to this practice to eliminate them for the sake of local French varieties. But nonetheless, the Saperavi attracted its attention to, we don't know who. Apparently, this person was smart enough to take Saperavi and Catsitelli to the United States just before the First World War. Then, after the Second World War, it went to California. After the First World War, to California, where it rested in the collection fields of UC Davis. And in 1954, Saperavi across the across the Pacific travels to South Australia, modern Adelaide Uni collection fields, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the time approximately when Dr. Constantine Frank also brings Saperavi to United States from, as we know, Ukraine. Dr. Frank being great specialist and highly experienced person in cold climate practices, he chose Finger Lakes, and he believed that this region would be one of the greatest regions for Saperavi. I think the only thing we can say today from this perspective, it's a big thank you to him to believe in Saperavi, as we see it's performing in Finger Lakes very well, and we have multitude of cases to prove it. Then in 1990, your humble servant today arrives in, that's me, arrives in Australia, and I was told that my friends would like to introduce me to my country fellow, and I was really surprised who was this country fellow, and we went there, and they showed me Saperavi and Catsitelli. Saperavi and Catsitelli arrived in Australia, as I said, in 1954. And since then, these two varieties have been going through this phylogenetic changes, or they acquired many skills how to survive under other climate conditions where they previously dwelled. But the longest, I think, was, for me personally, was Australian Saperavi and Catsitelli, which I took back to Georgia a few years ago, making this round-the-world trip complete. And after 150 or 160 years, these two varieties came back home, and I'm really highly proud that I have these two clones which have not been touched by Soviet hands. That is really my pride.
So, Lado, your feeling is that by taking the Australian clones back to Georgia, you will maybe benefit from the influence that they've had. Absolutely,
that is my feeling, and that's the reason why I took it, because phylogenetic changes and properties acquired through this through these travels, Saperavi can help us in Georgia. As we say and as we observe, climate is changing, and these changes are bringing to us quite drastic conditions in terms of elevated temperatures, less precipitation, hydro stress to our varieties, especially Saperavi, and being non-irrigated country, we would love to keep this line straight. We don't want to become irrigated viticulture country to be regarded, to remain being regarded high quality viticulture country. And this Saperavi and this Cacitelli, I think, having adapted to hot climate can help us build vineyards where we can source appropriate quality of grapes to keep producing great wines, Georgia proper. How we can do that? We can do it like by grafting on deep rooting systems, thus saving our future as a irrigated country. I can go into much more detail about this, but I think we need to save some information for next encounters with interested professionals, and we can deliver much more detailed information about this. So if you allow me, I'll just continue further into our presentation. Now, to talk about Saperavi's performance around the world, of course, we contacted few growers around the world. I have quite a bit of experience with Saperavi in different countries as well. And in this presentation, I'm bringing two radically different cases, like Niagara Falls, Chateau Niagara. I would like to thank Jim Baker, which I believe is attending this huge gathering, for his help to me share his opinion and experience with Saperavi. And once we send out this presentation to all willing to have it for further reading and deep analysis, of course you can have a look at the characteristics, how Jim's vineyards are performing and what they look like. And the final note from him is one of the most interesting. We love the grape here. It gives us nice fruit and substantial body and character, much more than traditional Western European varieties. It is cold hardy and a large yielding producer. There are no particular problems with the grapes if vigor is controlled. I think it's a blessing. It's a blessing when you don't struggle with crops and we don't struggle with the adaptability of the variety. Next extreme, I think, climate conditions for grapes is down under, where I am now, and this is Barossa Valley and Maclana Vale will follow also. Here too, I personally help Fertility Wines to understand the variety, and I'm really proud of being friends with them. They immediately liked the wine I brought back from Georgia. I was flying from France, from my vintage in France. On the way, I stopped in Georgia and took a few bottles to Australia. And they also immediately said that we loved it from the very first tasting of Georgian Saperavi. This was like a impulse to them also to think of Saperavi as of one of the varieties they would like to incorporate into their portfolio. Same happens with Hugh Hamilton, long-time friends, long-time colleagues. I was making Hugh's wines for a number of years, and Saperavi has become one of the most respected wines in his portfolio. There are properties of his vineyards, characterization of the climate conditions, and again, his words, this is a variety born to survive and to still give you a high quality. Now, the other regions, of course, we can go through word by word, but I think it's best then individually you can read it. is a King Valley, Riverland, Northeast Victoria, Kazakhstan, which is farthest east from us. The country is growing beautiful, beautiful Saperavi, and quite a few other countries in Eastern Europe and former Soviet Union who took Saperavi on board and are very, very happy. Now, talking about the world, I think we have to mention a few words about Saperavi in Georgia also. Saperavi and the history of viticulture in Georgia are almost the same. I mean, one without the other means almost nothing. We have multitude of naturally formed appellations based on Saperavi. You know, appellations like protected denomination of origin, or talking in French, appellation d'origine contrôlée. And these appellations are strictly governed by the law of Georgia. And these are, say, Mukuzani, in which my Mukado wines, my own company, is considered as crown of Georgian wines, and it delivers beautiful, beautiful, modern or traditional Creole wines there. Napareoli, Quareli, Kinzmaraoli, of course, these names, I believe, would not mean at the moment anything for the listener, but the time will come. I hope you will visit the country and then you will study these names, or if the sales of Georgian wine increases in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, this would be equivalent to you know, probably like if we looked at the Northern Rhone and you had Côte Rôtie and you had Hermitage and you have, you know, it's appellation terroir-based
names.
Yes, and I believe there will be some Mukuzani probably at the festival. So if any of the festival goers see Mukuzani, you know that that's basically a special appellation of dedicated to Saperavi.
And Napareoli, Quareli, and Kinzmaraoli in the Hashing as well, and the styles made in these appellations are listed. The other properties of Saperavi we need to mention here quickly is that this variety is really, really somewhat in its expression when it's made in Quevri, in traditional terracotta subterranean jars of 8,000 years. We've been making wine in modern ways of winemaking, be it stainless steel tanks, big oak vats, concrete vessels of all shapes, and then of course followed by oak maturation if when desired. Area it occupies is I think the biggest in Georgia, hence its importance economically is huge to our industry. Saperavi, in comparison to Syrah, Shiraz, and Bordeaux varieties, this is a purely scientific data, and once we share this information, I think you will individually be able to see these numbers in much better detail, in much deeper detail. I will only drag your attention to the final column where total phenols are, and then I will skip to the next. Please just memorize them somehow. The magnitude of these in what numbers they are.
Batono Lado, they have they're gonna get printouts of this data too,
yes, but just immediate impression is also important. And now the comparison to international varieties on the right. Again, you can see that Georgian Saperavi is gaining, I mean, lots of attention and so phenolic composition. And the table which just popped on the page is also one of my small researches in Chateaumontane. This is one of the leading projects of Georgia, where I did compare Cabernet, Syrah, Petit Verdot to Saperavi. But forgive me, in all these cases, there is no consideration of oxygen, temperature, extraction techniques, or nothing. It just randomly selected wines. If we compared wines made in very same winemaking ways, then these numbers would be more, I would say, precise, more comparable. But in case of small table below the left bottom corner, the only thing what I have not recorded was temperature, contact, extraction, oxygen, of course. But still, Saperavi is winning a lot against versus Cabernet Sauvignon and versus Syrah. And to once again prove how Saperavi is performing well, this is also Georgian Saperavi made in modern way. Now we are splitting modern and Query Mediterranean terracotta vinifications. And here is Saperavi in terracotta. It is about 10 to 20% more expressive in Query vinification when it comes to this, ancient technique winemaking. But this variety is really born to give you pleasures of winemaking in any way you treat it. In this chart, in this graph, we just try to compare Saperavi as a variety, as a performer in different climatic conditions. Now, this is just a comparison chart how these great varieties perform in similar conditions. We come up with some parameters, which we will narrow down in one or two and entered these numbers into Excel, and this is what Excel gave us to see how the analysis of performance look like. Saperavi in all parameters overpowers others except for Syrah, which performs greatly in a cool climate, delivering really beautiful roses, while Saperavi, because of its such a huge composition of phenolic substances and then color, sometimes gives you a little bit, more intense tinge, if you like, in rosé wines. Hence, it is somehow giving into Syrah in this direction. Light-colored rosé wines are really from special varieties, but Saperavi does not fall into this category because of its color content. And the other graph is if Saperavi is a noble variety. And here also we use some data, how in different conditions these are the French grape varieties are performing. And this is 4 properties or varieties to deliver great wines, as we listed just a few minutes ago, just a few slides before. This is sugar, acidity, color, tannin, aroma. And you can see that Saperavi graph is almost uniquely even, while others are, some parts, they show less or more. Hence, the harmony we observe would come through Saperavi wines when made in different conditions. Now, we are, once again, to remind us, living on planet Earth, which has this natural cycle of climatic changes. It is, as we say always, 100,000, 41,000, and 26,000. This is eccentricity, obliquity, and then precession of the planet. We are going through very drastic climatic changes. Sometimes we blame humans for it, sometimes we blame nature, but I think it's both of them. We are just in the phase of industrial era, which coincides with natural cycle of climatic change. And as winemakers, we experience it on our own skin as well, because we see many regions losing their so-called original properties, and they are now in hardship and going through hard times to find ways how to retain their originality in the face of their terroirs and viticulture areas. For that, we also try to use some ways of comparison between Saperavi and other varieties. We took three principal properties from different varieties. This is adaptability, economics, and crop size. In adaptability, Saperavi is a leader, and the curves, which variety delivers most of, a variety of products. Also, which variety gains pace commercially. The curves are showing that Saperavi is also ahead of the others. I think it's also the trend in the latest trend in modern wine industry. We always look for something new, and this new is just in front of us today. This Saperavi really. Here, futuristic vision for Saperavi continues. Saperavi exceptional ability and blending ability. Again, we have multiple, let's say, parameters to compare these varieties: color, limbidity, site expression, aroma, taste, structure, depth, longevity, oak, American oak, other. And Saperavi is really showing very well, exceptionally well, I would say. And once this presentation is specific to American public, I outlined use of oak here, and Saperavi is a variety which shows exceptionally well when it's matured in American oak. And this is one of the greatest, I think, discoveries what we've made lately. And I always use American oak, American wood to deliver some specific styles of my wines. And the phenomena behind this is lying in Saperavi character properties, as well as in American oak. Saperavi is a variety which literally devours any amount of oxygen, while American oak being able to let lots of oxygen go through the wood structure because of its capillary system. It gives Saperavi lots of oxygen and then makes really a nice style of wine. Because as I observe, Saperavi is a gigantic wine and it needs really some enormous oxygen compared to other varieties to round it's sometimes tough, young body. Futuristic visions continue. I think we need to also list some best soils and terroir. There is a list, and of the terroirs, of course, I put my own terroir. First of all, because I've grown up with this soil and the climate condition and terroir. And once you have red clay, topsoil, and stony and sandy layer over limestone and carbonated bedrock, and you are on a winner. Then shale and loamy soils, morning mist would give a Barolo style depth so like worldwide. I think this is exactly what Finger Lakes is. And from what I read also in Finger Lakes, you have rains with pH below 7, which is acidic side. And you have also carbonate in your soil, and these acidic rains are dissolving your carbonate and then penetrating it ingressing it into deeper layers of your soil. And that is also, I think, the reason what I've tasted in your wines and why your wines have such a beautiful color, aroma, and long-living, long-lasting body. So these all combined with your oak, I think Finger Lakes is, to me, what a shame that I'm not there at the moment. And of course, it's my next destination. It just did not work out for me to arrive this time, but I'll be more than happy to visit your beautiful area and taste your wine, their origins. Well, alluvial, sand, and gravel, of course, are great soils, and in general, any clay, any stony or sandy over clay followed by limestone or alluvial sandy stone, well-drained soils or structures are really suitable for Saperavi. This is a variety, really, to summarize, this is a variety which, brings goosebumps when I'm talking about, because of its history and ability to perform. It is so friendly. It is so on your side when you work with it. You just have to understand your climate, you understand your variety, and you have to know your desires, what you would like to do with variety, and it will not let you down anytime. If all the rest is, of course, selected and decided in a suitable way. Just briefly, a glance at our Marani, which is cellar in Georgian. And this is how we see it. Some are historic, some are newly built cellar. And I think, as mentioned before, please follow us on our YouTube channel to listen and to hear what we are going to do with Lasha and Erika. It is our dream to bring the origins of wine to the United States in its full 100% implementation, original implementation. The only difference will be that it's going to be done on the United States soil. And this is going to be, I think, one of the biggest bridges between these two countries. And the United States is a strategic partner for Georgia in everything, and especially in economic activities for our country, for Georgia. So it's in our deep and big interest to somehow widen the knowledge of Georgia amongst Americans. And this is what Erika and Lasha are doing so beautifully. Thank you again. Now, takeaways. I don't know, should I list takeaways or you will do it? Who is the biggest enthusiast to do this? Lasha, Erika? Okay, I'll go on. So Saperavi is a noble variety, grape variety by default. I mean, it's seen, it's observed, and then really it performs everywhere it's gone so far. Saperavi can make a huge array of wine styles under given terroir. Saperavi is a great blender. This is something what really helps winemakers to blend Saperavi to their local varieties, traditional varieties, and it does not hurt really the style. It enriches them, brings something new, but never ever masks or overpowers host variety. Saperavi matches against climatic change, as we mentioned, and this is being proven everywhere it's gone once again. And Saperavi is adapted for new regions, which is just the same, or written almost the same, what's written just above. And I think that's it. That's it. I'd love to say much more, but at this time I think we are through the presentation. So it's back to you, Erika, Lasha.
Thank you, Lado. Thank you, Erika. This is a fascinating presentation. This is a fascinating occasion. And we want to remind our listeners to please keep exploring, following us on YouTube channels, social media channels, on Instagram and Facebook, and we will be bringing you more of this beautiful content of this beautiful grape variety. And I just want to finish everything with this beautiful view of Dr. Konstantin Frank Winery, and we'll see you at the next session. Thank you all.
Lasha, you look like a saint, on the
Thank you.
The illumination and the vineyards behind you.
I mean, this view is like you can never get tired of.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.